Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today we are having an exciting roundtable. Many of you know that Dr. Kendra Lowe it was going to be with us tonight. I think she's having technical difficulties. We're hoping that she'll jump in during the time that we are chatting for right now. But for tonight, thank you so much. I am Berenice Castillo, founder and CEO at MSAN, and Casey, our VP of Programs and Operations, is with us. Hi, Casey. So,
hey.
I was gonna say, you're not gonna talk or what?
No, I'm talking. I'm good. I'm telling you, I think we're all having some technical problems today.
I think so too. You know, I think there's a little bit of delay also, but okay, let's hope that everyone can hear us and be able to see us right now, because we're about to talk about something very, very good, interesting. It can be a sensitive subject. It can be something that many of us are going through. Many of us that probably have before. But I mean, today we want to talk about community, sense of community. You know, what is our community, our military community? And I'm going to talk about my experience, hoping that Dr. Lowe will be able to join us. But, you know, when I got married 20 years ago, it was all about the military. I was brand new. I had no idea what the military was all about. So I was learning about the community, what we call our military family. And it was a little bit different. Actually, it was very different what our community was all about. Because as a civilian, and then you come into the military and you experience something completely different, unless you are a military child. But I got to find out that our community becomes your family. I mean, we don't call it community. We call it our military family. You become close to your neighbors. You become close to your spouse's peers and their families and our kids and their kids. And it's an awesome thing. But there's a lot of spouses that do not have that. And we created a poll on social media. And the numbers that we got, Casey, were a little bit scary to see that spouses or didn't feel like they belonged to the community, or they didn't have a community, or they were far away from family or military installations, so they don't even have the sense of community of the military family because they're so far away, because they're not close to an installation like our peers with the National Guard and the reserves. I mean, they don't get to experience that. So when we saw those numbers, we were like, oh my goodness. I mean, we knew we needed to talk about our community, about supporting each other, about all of those things. But creating that poll and seeing those percentages was something I was not expecting, to tell you the truth.
I wasn't either. I was really shocked, and you know, we were talking about it back and forth as we decided this was what we were going to talk about. We know that we've known that there's a lack of community. We know that there are people who feel isolated and who are feeling alone. And that's something we do well here with filling that gap. But seeing the numbers on paper were a totally different thing to me.
Yeah. You know, 67% of the spouses that answered the poll said that they didn't have a community. I mean, 67% is really high. And I hope that those that are with us right now can comment or give us how you feel. Do you feel that you have that sense of community, that sense of belonging into the military lifestyle or family? And, you know, I think part of it comes with stigma. I mean, not because you are part of this family doesn't mean that you have to meet certain expectations. And I think a lot of the times we all think that because now we're military spouses, we have to follow certain things and expectations and protocol and everything. And sometimes that's not for everybody. I mean, we got amazing spouses going to school. They have a successful career, and they don't have time to volunteer or to be part of the spouses club. But that doesn't mean they're not part of our community. I mean, they're still part of our family. They still belong to this. But I think that many of us feel like outside of the community if we don't volunteer, if we are not part of the club, or if we are not part of FRGs or key spouses because we work full time or go to school and kids and everything. So I think that it would be great for us to start seeing if people can start giving us their comments and experiences. What actually makes a sense of community besides belonging and feeling that somebody has your back, and being able to knock on your neighbor's door if you're having an emergency or something like that. I mean, that's.
Yeah. I know we have a pretty good, we have a big National Guard and Reserve following right now, and in the comments, we're seeing some of that come up right now, and that's important to us because, like you and I, we're very much so attached to our installations, right? Like we can drive right to whatever we need to on base, but specifically, like our National Guard and our Reserve families are more separate from everybody. Maybe they don't PCS like we do, or they don't, get to live in housing like we do. So hearing from them, I'm curious to see how that community is different. I know I'm watching the comments all come in and stuff, and I couldn't imagine. I've been a military spouse for what, 9 years? 9 years, yeah, and I couldn't imagine not being attached to our installation in some form of fashion, as my spouse has been home or not home, or we've had children since then.
Yeah. And I think I've been, like I said, married for 20 years, and most of the time we lived on the installation. It was just a couple of times, and this time that we're living off base, but we're still very connected to the installation and everybody. So you still feel part of it, that you belong to that. But something that always happens is that we have to experience that belonging somewhere, or restarting your community every single time that we PCS, because we're leaving our friends behind. We're leaving everyone behind, and our kids are leaving their friends behind, and we're PCSing again. And guess what? We have to start from square one, and it's kind of like rebuilding the community. And I feel that probably that's one of the reasons why we feel sometimes that we don't belong within our community, because we PCS to a place where probably you don't live close enough to the base, where probably that installation doesn't have a very active or support for families or events. And so no one gets together and they don't do nothing, and you end up feeling like, okay, I'm in the middle of nowhere with no family. I don't know my neighbors. And in our installation, there's no sense of community because they're not that close together. And although now we got Facebook and all of this to be able to talk to people that we left behind, once upon a time, it was hard to keep to be in touch with those people. Now you can, but I think that PCS makes the sense of community even more difficult every time that we move.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think right now specifically, given kind of what we've all been going through with COVID and everything else, that sense of community, it's really important right now, because we are, some of us are just now starting to start that phase of reopening, and others are still stuck in a lockdown situation. So right now, you're not even walking across the street to meet the new neighbors that moved in, or to introduce yourself if you are the new neighbor. Now, we're really striving on a virtual community, and hoping that virtual community is a safe and welcoming group for us at that same point.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think one of the things that we wanted to address, it was to our new military spouses. The ones that we support, the ones that we get to mentor. You are going to experience this, and it's not gonna be. You're not the only one that is gonna feel like, I'm leaving my family behind. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know my neighbors. I don't know anybody in my installation. So where do I belong? What is this all about? So you just gotta give it a try. I mean, we have to do our part as well. And kind of like what we do, the ones that are being around, what happens when you have a pregnant neighbor? You bring them cookies and you get to meet them and you have anything you need, just let us know. And that's what we do so that we can continue that sense of community. But for the brand new spouse, that's exactly what you're going to experience. And maybe the very first time, the first time that you're leaving your family behind and your job and probably school and so many things, and you're going to a place when you don't know anybody. Well, it's okay. You're gonna have those feelings that maybe I don't know anybody. What am I doing? I don't have support. No one has my back. But we do. Maybe you don't know that we're there, but we do. Yeah. But it's also good that you get out. It's also good to participate. And once you are at an installation, when maybe you'll be able to participate and go to events and stuff like that to get to know other spouses. But in the meantime, you have us here. I mean, MSIN and your mentors, and we're all here. We have your back. But don't feel that you are the only one feeling out of place, or that you feel that now what? Where do I belong? What am I? What am I part of? Because it can be very easy to get lost in those feelings.
And now, without further ado, our special guest is here. So we're going to add her in, and yay.
Yeah. Hi.
How are you guys doing?
Good, and you?
I'm good. We've had a long week, but we're doing good.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us. We were just having a little chat right now about the sense of community, and we were just saying that, as military spouses, doctor, we talk about sense of community, and as a brand new spouse, when you PCS for the very first time, you leave your family behind, your friends, your everything. You go to a brand new place when you don't know anybody, you don't know the lifestyle. And that's where all the questions come. Where do we belong? What are we part of? Who are we now? And it's so easy for everybody to get lost in those feelings when it comes to having a community and what it is.
No, it is. And I think it's such an important topic to continue to talk about, because it's something that I think military families and spouses have grappled with every single time we PCS. So it's something that doesn't happen just one time. It's part of that cycle of resetting, when we go and we PCS again, and it's effort and being conscious and to make those connections. And sometimes some places we go, it's easier, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, that's what we were saying, that every single time that we PCS, we start from square one, trying to rebuild the community or trying to find our community. And what happens when you go to a place where you don't have support, when there's an installation that doesn't do much for families, when it's an installation that is in the middle of nowhere and it's a tiny one, and there's no sense of none of those things. So yeah, we were saying the same thing.
And then you have obviously different barriers when we go to foreign countries, right? So you're adding just a different layer on top of. I'll never forget when we arrived to Okinawa, and you couldn't even read street signs. So directions are by go to the third house that's red on the left and take a right, and all the other things that go with it, language barriers and culture barriers. And so I think that just adds an additional layer for a lot of folks that have had that overseas experience as well.
Yeah. We were talking about the numbers that we saw on the poll that we created, and how, we were really surprised to see the numbers. And the poll was not just answered by new spouses, but also by seasoned spouses. And to see that 67% didn't have a community, to us was like an eye-opener that, not only new spouses are experiencing this lack of support or community, but also seasoned spouses are feeling out of place when it comes to this.
Well, and I think it's just, again, that bias that we have often with the seasoned spouses that, they've done it 6 or 7 times. So surely they know how to immerse themselves when they get to that next base and get up and get running within weeks or days. And that's just not always the case. And that sense of community and social connectiveness is just so important. And it truly is a struggle each and every time. And I think we make that assumption that we get better at it every single time we do it. But I that's certainly not the case for me. There's been times where surely I felt I should have been better at it or able to do it. And I wasn't, and I struggled a lot more than what I thought I should have been capable of doing it. So it kind of leading to those expectations of ourselves and expectations of our peers, that there shouldn't be that high level of expectation that it's automatic.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about this too. That in my personal opinion, I was thinking that not because we don't follow certain criteria, or because if we have spouses that work full time or go to school and they don't have time to volunteer or to join the spouses club, and they don't follow the traditional role of the military spouse, that doesn't mean that they're not part of our community. And I get the feeling that sometimes spouses feel that because they don't volunteer or they don't come to the events, they are not part of our community, but they still are. It's just that their situation is different, but they still belong to our community. And I think we need to address that over and over. They're not because they're not able to volunteer or join the club. I mean, they're still part of our family. It's just a different situation.
And be patient with others. So maybe at one assignment, you're able, because of your family situation, life situation, you're able to do some of those volunteer things, and the next time you're not, and that's okay. So take that stress off yourself and say, when I can, I'll give when I can, but when I can't, I can't, and that's okay. There's no, there shouldn't be an additional layer of stress with that, because know that you're capable, and when you can give, when your family's capable of giving, then give. And if you can't, that's okay, because you're always part of this community, and it's something unique to us, and unique that we share. And I think I talk to civilians often, and they're envious of some of that social connection that we have, because we share such a common bond. And I think when you really embrace that, it brings forward just great social connection and community. But it's making that choice to embrace it too.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Doctor. And I think that we, us that have been here a little bit longer, we can look back and remember our very first PCS, or remember that very challenge, kind of like with you. I mean, you remember Japan right away in that experience. We all have an experience like that we can relate to and remember. Oh, I remember that one. And I think that it's our turn as seasoned spouses, like you said right now, be patient, but also be able to support and help the brand new spouse that is coming in without knowing anything, without knowing how to read the signs. They're coming into a foreign country where they don't even know what they're doing. And I feel that sometimes our community, when we're older or we have been doing this for a little while, we lack the patience or the compassion with the new spouses. They're asking basic questions. To us, we feel like, come on, that's a crazy question. But to them, it's not, because they have not experienced this. So we see a lot of how the new spouses go through this. Sometimes they're afraid to ask questions because they don't know how we're going to react to it. Because sometimes even seasoned spouses can have expectations of other spouses that, come on, you should know by now. But we were there before, so we forget those things.
Well, and it's so true, and all of our experiences look different as well, right? So, when we moved to Japan, my children had never seen my husband in uniform prior to that, because we lived on a base where he never wore a uniform to work. And so we were very far removed in North Carolina from that connectedness to the military. And then all of a sudden we're living on base. And I felt myself, even though I'm prior active duty, I felt myself asking some of those questions again, because now we're on base and fully immersed. And, when he put on his uniform the first day, it was, Dad, what are you putting on? And it clicked with me, because I'm like, we have to remember with brand new spouses that every experience is brand new to them, and they're feeling it, and those feelings are very real, and they're feeling it for the first time. And because we have been in it for 19 years, for 22 years, that novelty of those feelings aren't there for us anymore. But for me, it just was a good gut check, because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost like feeling that for the first time again, because it's the first time my children have been exposed to reveille, hearing that in the morning, and taps going off at night when you lay down at bed. And I was like, seeing it through their eyes for the first time kind of brought me back. And I think it was a good experience for me, because I felt like I could relate to younger spouses a lot better there, because I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember what it's like when everything's brand new, and it's just a brand new culture that you're submerged in immediately, without that connection to your family most of the time, family and friends that you use for that social support.
Yeah. Then something that we were also talking about, that, and I think we saw that on the statistics, the amount of spouses is sometimes, even all active duty spouses, we have never been in the shoes of the National Guard or the reserve spouse. We don't know what it is to be like 2 or 3 hours away from an installation, to live right next to your civilian neighbors that don't understand what you go through when you are married to a National Guard or reservist, and to see on the poll the amount of spouses that said, we don't have a community, and we don't live close to family, and we don't live close to an installation. So it's kind of like they don't even they have less than what we get to have as active duty spouses. And one of the things that we hear often is that because they're reserve spouses or because they're National Guard, well, they're not active duty, it's not as bad. But when it comes to someone needing support, it's bad, no matter if you're married to an active duty member, National Guard, or reserves, is the same thing. So, I mean, how do we bring that back together within our community to have a little bit more sympathy or provide more support to those spouses that are not close to anyone?
And I think you all, what you're doing right now is important. So it's starting the conversation, and it's increasing awareness that, community is so important, and that with your numbers and the data that you guys have, it's so important to look at that, because it's a real issue and it's a real concern. So merely by talking about it tonight and having your audience listen to this, saying, how do I feel, and having them reflect, do I feel connected? What else can I do to help connect myself? If I do feel connected, what has helped me? And then what can I do to help others? And so I think that's just really important with your numbers, is it is a real concern. It is a real issue. And certainly, as you're saying, I'll go back to, again, all of our experiences are different. So I can't relate to the experience of National Guard or reservists, but their layer of stress is different than ours, but it's not lesser, it's not more. It's just a different stress. It just looks different. And obviously, with what we've gone through with COVID, that's been such an important lesson that, I've heard over and over again, is that we're all weathering the same storm, but our boat is very different. So, and that's the same kind of analogy I'd use for this, is, we all are having this military experience, but our boats are very different. That doesn't make it more or less or significant. It just makes it different. So I think what's important is trying to understand it. So you're saying, it's different. So if I were truly, caring and compassion, it's asking that person, what is different? Educate me. Yeah. Educate me. What is more different? I'm taking the time to invest in you, saying, explain it to me. I don't understand, and be an active listener and engage with that person and let them share, this is what's tough for me, is because when they go, it's short notice or there's less planning, and let me share that with you. And it's like, oh, I never knew that was part of it. We make assumptions, right? We make a lot of assumptions about things. So stop assuming that. Take the time, sit down with that person, and get to know what their stressors are and what their life is, living that portion of, the military life experience.
Yeah, that is so awesome, and it's so true. I mean, a lot of the times we don't even bother to ask, to explain to us what's the difference, so that we can try to be a little bit more, have more sympathy for what they're going through, so that to us it's not like, oh, come on, it's no big deal. because we're not there doesn't mean that it's no big deal. It's just we're not experiencing it. So yeah, I agree with that.
And validate it, right? I mean, you just say to someone like, I'm not in your shoes. I haven't done that walk, but man, that sounds challenging. That sounds hard. What can I do to help you? What do you need? I think validation of anybody's stress is so important because you're not being dismissive. Don't dismiss it. That feels horrible if you're being dismissive of how someone feels. So, it's really important to take that time to do that as well.
Yeah, it is very true. And, like we were saying earlier, we all go through something sometimes. And we all try to support, and we always talk about community and how we're going to support each other. A lot of the times, even just saying, I'm here for you. Do you need someone to talk? And like a doctor is saying, just to acknowledge that someone is going through something.
And they may not need you today, but if you offer that, they'll remember that. And a week later, maybe that's when they need you. And they'll say, I remember when I was talking to Kendra last week, and she said I could reach out to her. I'm going to. And I've had many people do that along the way of just like, hey, I've gotten your number. Do you mind? Do you have a minute? Absolutely, I have a minute. It's providing that brief connection that might turn into something greater later.
And sometimes all that we need is, I'm here for you. That changes perspective and changes everything, and it doesn't feel like such a big thing anymore because now we know that there's someone with us that has our back, and probably we don't feel as lonely anymore. And
the powerful thing, you are not alone.
Yes, exactly. And that is something that we were trying to share with the new spouses, that you're gonna go through those feelings because we all do, but there's always someone there to support you. We're here to support, and it's okay to feel that way. Don't feel that you're the only one. It's okay to feel, because we all go through it. It's just knowing how to navigate with that.
Yeah, it is. And I think we just need to constantly remind ourselves of that, and we get busy in our lives, and how much is required of what we do, and our spouses are amazing and juggle so much. It's just unbelievable. But it's good to sit and reflect and take time to say those things are important.
And one of the responses that we got as well is the amount of spouses that were feeling misunderstood. And it can be misunderstood because we're having a hard time adjusting, because once again, the assumptions, and we think that because I don't volunteer, probably I'm no longer considered the military spouse role model that I should be. Sometimes we don't feel that we actually connect, or there can be so many things that we feel that they're not understanding us. And that also creates a division within our own community. And I feel that even within our community, there's division of how we support each other, what we expect from each other, what we're willing to tolerate. Sometimes even our own community can be separated according to expectations and stuff like that. We can be rough with each other too.
And I've seen that a lot as well. And we should be our own champions, standing alongside one each other, cheering each other on, and surround yourselves with people that want to lift you up, and are there to just do whatever they can to help make you great or succeed, whatever you want to do. And be cautious of those people that want to bring you down, because it just doesn't help anyone. And if you find someone like that, a very draining person, I've often tried to take time and maybe try to fish out what they're struggling with. But it's hard because there are individuals out there like that. And it's a shame because, we do need, we need people standing beside us and just saying you can do it and pushing us along and picking us up, and we need to be picked up. And it's an important role, and especially with the struggles we go through, to have people that are your cheerleaders.
Yeah, that's very true. And one of the another of the things that I feel that as military spouses, sometimes if we don't get out there, and here probably is going to be a little bit challenging because of COVID-19, we cannot get out there and knock on people's doors and bring cookies and stuff like that, like we used to get to meet spouses. So right now it's making it more challenging, but we also have to be able to do something to take the first step. I was telling Casey, I remember being a base and you're waiting for your neighbors to PCS and move in, and then you knock on the door, you bring cookies and you welcome them to the neighborhood and that kind of stuff. Maybe right now it's not happening as much because of COVID. Not everybody's PCSing, and so people are PCSing super fast, and there's a lot of chaos on top of it. But I think there's still a way for us to continue to have that sense of community and create that community and make it strong. I think that during these times is where we can make it even stronger than what it used to be before.
There's an opportunity. There's always an opportunity. And there's creative ways to think about it. So maybe you can't do the hand-delivered cookies, but a handwritten note sure speaks volumes. Posting that on someone's door, and here's my number. I'm at this address. We're so excited you're here. I know we can't meet face-to-face right now, but we can. Here's my name. Here's my children's name and ages, and introduce yourself. A hand-written note, there's no harm in that. And oh my gosh, I love getting handwritten notes still because they're such a not as common nowadays. And so someone sitting down to take time to do that, to me, is just very meaningful. So there's ways that you can, and if you're concerned about a neighbor next door, putting up a handwritten note for them and trying other ways to do that connection without physically being with that individual. So again, as we've kind of talked about before, these times are a little bit more mentally draining because everything we do, we have to be diligent about, and we have to make conscious choices about. And, I find myself drained at the end of the day because just having to make that conscious effort all day long to make those choices. Whereas, in a normal daily schedule, you're on autopilot, and we're not really on autopilot anymore. And that's draining. But that's the same as wanting that community and social connection, is that you're going to have to do things that are going to be harder, than what we're used to popping over with cookies. So
yeah. That's true. And that's what we bring you as our guest, doctor, because you're always giving us all these awesome ideas. That's a great idea of the written note. We don't do that. People don't do that anymore. And going back to those things that always, you can touch it, you can feel it, that, someone is there, not like what we're used to. Then now we just wave or send a text message, but actually somebody took the time to write a note and bring it to the door and leave it on your mailbox or something like that. It speaks more than somebody really tried. It was an effort for them to try to come and show you that, hey, welcome, we're here if you need us. So that's really cool. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, doctor, the last time that you were with us, we talked about the book. We talk about the research that you did, which is amazing. And we always talk about that. Even Casey and I were always relating to the book and the stuff that we read, because it's just amazing and full of great information. And you talk about the stressors and how all the stuff that we go through. Do you think that having a strong community, or that sense of community, does it make a big impact within the stressors, within how we feel, within part of whatever the research that you were doing? Do you think that having a strong sense of community and support and all of that will make things a little bit better than all the findings that you mentioned in the book?
I'm going to give you a yes and no answer, which is not nice, but I that a sense of community and social connection is always important. And I've been reading a lot about COVID, and just research that's out, and Harvard Research has done extensive a 75-year-long study that has looked at how social connection, meaningful social connections, can decrease health problems and longevity of life. They've done this over 75 years and had different individuals come in to continue this research, and they've tracked people. So and those that don't have meaningful social connections, they have, degradation of, their health conditions, mental health conditions, and all these things. And so, at the end of the day, they're saying social connections are good for us. They're good for our whole well-being. mental, physical, emotional well-being. So yes, do I think it helps with those stressors? Absolutely, it helps with our stressors to have a strong social community and connection. Do I think the stress will go away? No, I don't think the stress will go away. I still think that there is significant layer of stress that military spouses experience that we have to be diligent about having tools to use to be able to work through it. And so social connection can be something that can help us navigate it, can help us, as I call, as I talk about in the book, that reset. It can make that reset portion of our military spouse life cycle a little shorter. So maybe we don't sit there for 6 months. We only sit there for 2 weeks because we have a stronger sense of community, because we have stronger social connections that allows us to use those tools to get back to thriving. So I think it helps us go through that cycle, and it helps us not sit in that reset phase as long as others may that are really struggling in those moments. But I do want to be clear that those reset moments will never go away for military spouses. They're part of what we do, is experiencing that stress. That will never be alleviated because of the unique nature of what we deal with. What we need to focus on is better ways to allow ourselves to get through those moments and to get past those moments and then get back to thriving. And certainly having that community and social connection is going to make those moments of reset happen, and you'll be a lot more successful during those moments where others may not.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that we've learned so much that as a new spouse, it's okay to go through this, rely and allow us to bring you into the community so that we can help you and ask questions, and for us seasoned spouses to be more patient and have a little bit more sympathy for the new spouse, because once upon a time we were new spouses and we didn't know anything. So we got to make sure that we remember those days so that we can actually help the new spouse. We're learning about, get out there and having a community will be always helpful. And what happens, I think that we got to take care of ourselves before we can get out there and be able to give our best or actually be able to support someone else. And I think that's something that we struggle with. We take care of everyone else except ourselves.
What do they always say? You can't have a healthy relationship with an unhealthy person.
Yeah.
So, it starts with you. And if you're in, that's the same with your family. If you yourself is not functioning, you have to, and I think we constantly think about helping everyone else, but if you're not functioning and you find yourself in a time period where you can't do anything and you can't function, then it will significantly affect everybody else around you. So it is so important to take care of yourself first. Or the other analogy that you hear all the time is, what do they say on an airplane, is you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you do for your children. And that's so true. And it's something, that's an image I always see in my mind, because you have to be healthy and model, those positive behaviors for those around you. And the only way is if you consciously work on that and help yourself to, social and emotional health.
Yeah. It can be too that sometimes we take care of everyone else. We don't take care of ourselves because we're really bad at that. That it's hard to have a strong community or give our best when we're not okay with ourselves. And that can actually impact even our entire community, that we're trying to do so much, but we're not taking care of ourselves. So when something happens to me, well then, who's going to come and help me, because I'm taking care of 10 people. I have 10 people under my arm. So if something happens to me, here goes all of us will go down because I'm not taking care of myself. So maybe in our community, we need a stronger foundation. In order to have a strong community, we got to start by taking care of ourselves before we take care of others.
And I think it's hard. It's, so many, again, going back to just, I will sing spouses' praises as long as I can, because I've just been blessed to meet so many amazing spouses around this entire world, and how giving they are and giving them themselves, but to a fault sometimes. And it's hard to see when you're in it, right? When you're that individual, it's hard to see that I'm doing it to a fault, meaning I'm depleting myself so much that at some point I will no longer be helping others. And so, again, it's going back to, a lot of the tools that I work with individuals, is having that self-awareness. Am I feeling drained? I'm starting to feel drained. What can I do to fill myself up before I go back out and give more of myself? And I'm certainly not saying don't give of yourself, because we all have just unique gifts to give. And so, and it's important, but you're not going to be able to give that gift if you've depleted yourself so low. So, again, I find with military spouses, we run so fast around that hamster wheel until the wheel breaks. And then that wheel is broken. And then now I'm completely broken. How do I repair this entire hamster wheel? Instead of just being on it for a little bit, saying, you know what, I ran too much on it today. I need to take a day off. And using physical fitness as an analogy, I just overdid it one day. And so my body's really exhausted today. I need to take a day off. And so that's the same with your mental and mental health and your emotional well-being. If you're a giver, and that's awesome, but you have to be able to check in with yourself and say, okay, has this drained me? Do I need a Sunday? Do I need a Saturday? And oh, by the way, knowing enough about yourself to say what's going to fill me up. What does fill me up? Is it going for a long run? Is it meditation? Is it getting a pedicure? Is it coffee with a friend? Is it complete isolation for an hour in quietness? Is it being out in nature? You have to know your top 3 things that fill you up. And those are your go-tos. But the second part is really knowing and being aware of when you're starting to feel that coming on. And then you have those list of those go-tos and say, I'm starting to feel it. Okay, I'm going to do number 1. Tomorrow's the day I'm going to do number 1. Did that fill me up enough? Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better. No, it didn't fill me up enough. I'm going to number 2, and work through that. But you should have a book. Everybody should have a book of those top 3 things that fill you up. Now, can they change throughout your life? They can. Those top 3 things in my 20s are completely different from what they were in their 30s. And yes, I'm in my 40s. And so they're different from what they are in my 40s for now. So they'll change, and that's okay. And that changes as our military family structure changes and where we move to. But you should always have those lists of top 3 things that you can go to that fill you up, and be aware. And if you don't know how to become aware of if you're starting to feel those that drainingness coming on, that's something you need to start working on now as well. And that's with a therapist, that's with an MFLAC, and I'm throwing out all these resources. That's, a peer, that's a military spouse mentor. How can I start recognizing those things in myself? Those are really important things to have in place right now. And if you don't need them right now, you're going to need them someday.
Yeah, definitely. So before we go to the comments, Casey, because I know we have a lot of comments, and I want to make sure that we address those as well, in case there are any questions or anything. One of the things that I also wanted to touch base with pretty fast is there are a lot of tense moments in our lives right now, through COVID and everything else that is happening. And this is also a time where togetherness within our community is very important. And I just want to talk about the agree to disagree, and respecting each other's point of views and each other's I don't know, differences. I think that lately I've seen a lot of division within our community because our the ways that we think, or what we go for, or if we agree or not. And instead of having, like you said, like, talk to me, tell me what you feel one way, or why you think different, and let's try to understand each other. And if we don't, at least respect that. And that I just wanted to say that this is a time that as a military community, we need to be even closer and together and strong. And it's okay not to agree, but we gotta respect each other if we don't agree. And that is something that I think that is lacking lately. That if you don't think like me, then I'm not gonna respect, or I'm not gonna talk, or that we go to so many different levels of other things. But I just wanted to address with everybody that here at MSAN, we just want to make sure that we talk about who we are as a community, and we will always be bonded because where we belong, because our spouses are here, because we're part of our community. So we got to stick together, and kind of like with families, our families are dysfunctional, and there's someone in your family that, they drive you crazy, but you still love them because they're your family. The same with us. I mean, be patient with each other, be respectful, and remember that we're in this together. We're in the same community. We love each other, and probably someone can be driving you crazy. You still love them because they're part of your family. So always remember that.
I love that. And it's so important that you said that right now. And I think you should replay that 3 more times in a row, because I please listen to that message. And it's just important. There's a lot of things. This can be, again, something that can either bring us together or drive us apart. Yeah. And it's an opportunity to surround yourself. I enjoy surrounding myself by people that don't think exactly like me. Why? Because I can grow. Yes. And I can ask you, tell me why, explain that to me, help me understand, going back to even when we're talking about, the reserve families and stuff, help me understand. I want to. I've never been in that walk. But describe it to me, explain it to me, help me get halfway there. And the only way you can do that is being willing to sit down and be open-minded. And when you start closing your mind to other opportunities and other individuals and perspectives, you're not going to grow. And so again, this is an opportunity for all of us to embrace it and to grow together.
Yeah, I love that, Doctor. That we gotta be outside of the comfort or always being around people that think like you, because you're never gonna think outside of the box. If you stay with the same people, then you never see outside. And we always have to experience the outside of the box and how others see things differently. And I love that, because that's true. That's a way for us to grow as human beings and to learn and be more knowledgeable. And that comes even as human beings, to leadership, to the work that even with your spouse, in so many different ways that you get to grow when you actually step outside of your comfort zone. You're outside of the box, and you're willing to see things differently. So that was great. Thank you for sharing that, Doctor. So Casey, what do we have?
We have a lot. I'm sitting here and I'm sorting through it. And first off, I am blown away by how many Guard and Reserve spouses we have actively on with us right now. And that's important to me, because I know, I sat through a meeting not too terribly long ago with some National Guard friends, and I was completely shell-shocked with some of the struggles they were sharing about. And as an active duty spouse, I'm not a speechless type of person. I was speechless. So I'm really, really glad that they're on with us tonight. A lot of what we're seeing right now in the comments is, sharing the struggle of finding a community, sharing the struggle of being a new spouse, but maybe not being a young new spouse, maybe being an older spouse as your spouse that has become a part of the military, marrying your spouse in your mid-30s to early 40s, because we do see that a lot too now for us. Or the stigma that does follow younger spouses even, because there is that stigma of you are young, you are naive to this community. So that's and adjust. that's what we're seeing. If you do not have an MSAN mentor and you're not a part of our MSAN fam, I highly, highly encourage you to take that survey. It's pinned in the comments. That survey is going to get you connected to a mentor who is a seasoned spouse of the same branch. We're a safe space. Like, we have, hands down, this is the best group I've ever been a part of, and I've been a part of a lot of military spouse groups. And the encouragement, the education, the empowerment, the support that just thrives and pushes us along as an organization is so evident in the work and in the connection and the community and the togetherness that we all get to see all the time within our organization. So if you don't have a mentor, I highly encourage you to take that survey now. We have mentors waiting right now to help guide you through this.
If you don't have one, get one.
I mean, I'm not going to shamelessly plug, because that was not shameless whatsoever. But definitely take the survey. If you're not a part of our Facebook forum, there's a link right to the group on our Facebook page right now. So you can join us in the forum and learn more about, being in a thriving community that, I mean, we're virtual, but virtual is better than nothing sometimes.
Yeah. And we have a place for spouses where to go and ask questions and not feel that they're going to be attacked for the question that they ask. But it's the opposite. I mean, we empower, we educate, we support, we mentor, we do everything that we can because we know what they need. But, a lot of the comments that we have, Doctor, is that people agreeing to what you were saying. And a lot of them are saying that they feel better when they interact with others. And what's the difference that it makes when you decide to be like, oh, I don't want to be part of it. I'm just going to stay here and I don't know anybody. And I think probably at the beginning it's okay, but then later on you feel like it's not okay. And it's something that we talked about. It was my feeling before COVID-19. Oh, I'm an introvert. I mean, I need to be home, and if I don't go outside, that's better for me because I like to be at home nice and quiet. Then after COVID-19, I'm thinking, I think I'm missing people in my life, and I think that I'm needing something. Yeah. I feel that probably some spouses go through that when they say, oh, I don't want to be part of this. I'm just going to stay in my own little world. But then later on, they realize that probably they do need that they need having people in their life. And probably they do want to get to know their neighbors. And probably they do want to go to an event at the base or the installation and see what this is all about.
Yeah, and I think it's harder for some individuals. So we're talking about, introverts and the difference between introverts and extroverts. And I'll never forget one of my closest friends over in Okinawa. We were getting ready to register the kids for school, and I didn't know her, and she looked at me and she's like, do you work out? And I said, I do. And she's like, well, I'm going to spin class tomorrow morning. You want to go with me? And she said, I said, okay. And she's like, it's at 5 a.m. though. Are you willing to do that? And I was like, okay. And so I thought it was just like on a whim and it wasn't going to be anything. But I drugged myself out of bed, at 4 a.m. and went over and went to it. And she had a seat saved for me and ended up being a great friendship. And it was just someone being bold, saying, you want to go to, she said, my friend just left last week. I need a new friend. You want to go to spin class with me? And I think it's hard to put yourself out there, but I'm saying that to encourage you to do that, because I think I hear many stories like that, of when military spouses have to leave one another and say, remember when we met and you came up and it was just awkward, and all of a sudden now, you've been the best friend I've ever had. So take that step. Even if it's uncomfortable, invite someone to go, well, not now to spin class, a virtual workout session, invite someone to do a Zoom, cocktail hour or coffee hour that you haven't seen that you saw, and invite them. You'd be surprised more often than not when you take that bold step, that individual that you invited has been waiting for that moment. So there's more reward to come from there than risk than you think. So do it. And again, most of my friendships that I can think back to have a quirky start like that, because we find that we got to get in as spouses, love hard and love fast, because it's not always going to last a long time. So take that risk. It can mean so much to you and that individual that you reached out to.
Yeah. And don't say what many of us have said before. Next time at PCS, I'm not gonna find friends because then I have to leave them and it breaks my heart. But I mean, don't do that. I mean, many times we say that just because we're hurt or because we're mad that we're leaving our friends behind. But if there's anyone out there that's saying, I don't want to meet anyone because I'm gonna leave and then it's gonna break my heart, just remember that those relationships don't go away. You might go away for a little bit, but in the military, it's still a small world. And we end up finding each other later on, probably 3 years later or 5 years later, we end up being neighbors again because, you know, it's a small world in the military. So get out there and find friends.
And it's true. And I always tell my children that, right? So they have to kind of rip their hearts open every summer as well and say goodbye to friends. And so I've told my eldest for many years, it's a small Air Force. You never know, you know, we'll run into them again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Air Force, don't make me a liar. And we were fortunate. She had 2 good friends in kindergarten when we were in Okinawa, and they came back and they were in her 3rd grade class 2 years later. And I was like, yes, I'm not a liar. But it's true because, you know, our kids do it as well. And, you know, and we say the same thing to them. And so if you're, you know, walk the walk, if you're talking the talk to your kids, if you do have children and you're saying that as encouragement, you know, and my daughter was just crying the other day about it, and it's heart-wrenching and heartbreaking. But I say that to her saying, you've had the opportunity to love that person for a whole year, and isn't that awesome? And you wouldn't ever want to take it. Does it hurt in the moment? Oh gosh, it hurts. And as a mom, it hurts. As a child, it hurts. And when I say goodbye to my friends, it hurts. But I really try to reflect on all those moments that were just so great, and that individual or that family were such a key part of that time in my life. And so we say that to our children all the time is you will make friends again. You might find someone that you never know that's even out there. So tell yourself that. Get out there. Introduce yourself to that new person. Be brave. And you can do it. It's possible, and you never know when you might see them again. So it's true.
It is so true. Yes. And before we go, in case we have any questions, and we're gonna pick 2 winners for 2 gift cards, and we're gonna pick 3 names for books because we want everybody to read Dr. Lowe's book. So it will be 3 books and 2 gift cards. So before we give the names of the winners, I just like how we're saying to everybody about the community and get out there and give it a try and provide the support. I'm going to talk to the new spouse that is hesitating to give us the opportunity to welcome you, that is hesitating to give us the opportunity to say, hey, I'm here for you. I'm going to bring you under my wing for a little bit so that you can get to see what this is all about. Because sometimes we're not given the opportunity. Sometimes we're thinking, no, I don't know what they want. I don't know if they have high expectations. And they're afraid. And it's not in a judgmental way. It's just we want you to know that we're here to support. So give us the opportunity to show you our community, to welcome you into our community so that one day you'll be in our place and you turn around and you welcome all the new spouses that will meet our community, because that's exactly what we do. So what do you think, Doctor, as one of our final thoughts before we pick the winners?
Certainly going back to, you know, a lot of great stuff brought up tonight. For me, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself first. Remember that, and take the risk. Take the risk to be part of the community. Take the risk to invite someone else to be part of the community. Because there are so many great opportunities and great growth that you can have being part of this unique, special group of individuals. So the reward is out there. So certainly embrace it and be that person from someone else.
I love that. I think that's kind of like a challenge for everybody. And one will be take care of yourself and then welcome someone in your community. And I think that we all will get to see that community that we're talking about, the potential of our community and who we are and what we are, and the wonderful things that we can do, not just for our community, but for each other and our families. So I think that starting there, Doctor, with a challenge of taking care of yourself and welcome someone into our community can make a big difference in when we are dealing with challenging times such as right now and COVID-19 and everything that is out there that is breaking our hearts because things are not going well. But we gotta put our effort. We gotta put something, the little grain of salt to make a difference. And if that means that we start tonight, doctor, by taking care of ourselves and welcoming someone to our community, that's gonna make a big difference. Exactly what MSAN is trying to do. But now with your guidance, I think it's something that we can do within our community and not just for new spouses.
Post it on your page, the risk that you took. Start tonight, start posting your risks.
Do it. We got to take the challenge. So Casey, before we leave, do we have any questions? And I know that we're going to have the winners. Oh, there they are. So nope, it's just comments. But you're gonna have to go back to the video, doctor, after it's out there, so you can see the comments of the spouses that they were agreeing and talking about how they feel comfortable being around others. And I think that tonight was a great chat, and that's why we wanted you to be with us, because your wisdom and how you explain things to us help us see things outside of the box that we are usually see things, and that's exactly what we want to show to others: who we are, what we can be, and the potential of our community. What really means a community, because in our military is not the same as outside the military. We are a close family. We're small considered out there. We're small, and we gotta be small together, strong and mighty. So, thank you so much for being with us, Doctor.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, and just what you guys are doing is just amazing. And so truly, I'll piggyback and say, if you're out there and you haven't signed up yet, if you haven't if you're not part of this organization yet, do it. There's nothing but gains from it, so there's nothing to lose, and so much to gain. So if that's your risk tonight to sign up, take that risk tonight and do it. So you guys are awesome, and I enjoy any chance that I can come on and spend time with you guys, and someday hopefully in person.
Oh, but yes, exactly. And we appreciate it, Doctor, because every single time that I have asked you, can you join us for this? And you're like, yes, I'm in, let's do it. I mean, so thank you so much for sharing so much with us and teaching us and guiding us. And we always need this. We always need someone to come and even explain to us things in a different perspective. And that's what you always do. So thank you for your flexibility, for wanting to share, for caring for our community, and for everything that you give us. We really, really appreciate it. So I know it won't be the last time. Like I said last time, yeah, we're going to bring you again.
Sign me up.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Casey. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching us tonight. And we hope the message that we were trying to send tonight, it gives you comfort to know that we care for you, and we care for our community, and we care for making it better. We cannot just expect you to make it better, and that's why we wanted to give you ideas and tips and all of those things that are going to help every single one of us to make our community stronger and be able to support each other the way that it should be. So thank you so much, everybody. Doctor, thank you. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Everyone, stay safe, and we will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.